What if your own mother looked you in the eye on Christmas Day, in front of your whole family, and told you to buy your sister's dream wedding, or lose them forever? What if the turkey was still hot, the gifts were still under the tree, and nobody stood up for you? Welcome back to the Hidden Family Revenge Stories. I'm Quinn, and this is the Christmas my mother tried to break me in front of 30 relatives, and the truth that came crashing out after 122 calls in one single day. To understand that Christmas, I have to take you back to Sanford, North Carolina, a small town about 30 minutes south of Raleigh. I grew up in a little ranch house on Carthage Street. It had a chain-link fence, a dogwood tree in the yard, and just enough space for a family to live close enough to hear every argument through the walls. My father, Robert Owens, drove a plumbing truck. He left early, came home tired, and always smelled like copper and glue. My mother, Sandra, worked the register at a fabric store on Main Street. She knew cloth the way some people know music. She could touch a piece of fabric and tell you everything about it. It was impressive. It just didn't pay much. We were never starving. We had food. We had heat. We had a used van that usually started. But there was never extra. No big vacations. No fancy camps. No braces for me until I was 15 and my parents could get a payment plan. Still, my mother had one dream she repeated my whole life like a prayer and a threat at the same time. One day, my girls will have the wedding I never had. She said it so often that I could hear it before she even opened her mouth. When my mother was 19, she married my father at the courthouse on a Tuesday in March. No flowers. No music. No party. She wore a navy dress she had already worn to work. My father looked nervous. My mother looked young, scared, and full of hope she never got to use. I found the old photos once in her nightstand. 2 little Polaroids hidden under a heating pad and an old phone book. My mother had carried that courthouse wedding inside her for 38 years like a sharp stone. And somewhere deep inside herself, she decided her daughters would fix what she lost. I became a nurse because when I was 16, I watched a paramedic save a kid in a gas station parking lot, and something inside me woke up. I wanted to be that kind of person. The kind who runs toward pain instead of away from it. I went to East Carolina University. I worked night shifts at a gas station to pay for books. I graduated, passed my exam, and got a job at WakeMed in Raleigh in the ICU, where people either got better, or they didn't. I loved the work. I was good at it. But without noticing, I became something else too. I became the fixer in my family. It didn't happen all at once. It happened the way traps always happen. One yes at a time. My mother refused to change pharmacies, so every month I drove to Sanford to get her blood pressure medicine. 6 years. 72 trips. My father hated doing taxes, so I learned the software and did them for him every spring. My grandma, Evelyn, lived in assisted living in Sanford. Bad hip. Sharp mind. I was her emergency contact. More than once, I drove there at 3 in the morning because she had fallen or her oxygen alarm went off. Every holiday? Me. Turkey, ham, paper plates, tea, grocery lists, seating, cleanup. Me. I lost a 2-year relationship because of it. His name was Ethan. He got tired of eating dinner alone while I worked double ICU shifts and spent my days off taking care of everybody else. At 33, I was single, steady, responsible, and so reliable that my whole family had stopped seeing me as a person. They saw me as the answer. My younger sister, Lily, lived in a whole different world. She was 6 years younger than me, pretty in that easy way that made people smile at her without meaning to. She worked at a boutique in Raleigh called Clover and Sage and sold candles and clothes that cost too much. She and my mother were close in a way I never was. They talked every day. They watched reality TV together. They went shopping together. I didn't hate that. I was too tired to hate much. Then Lily met Mason Carter. Mason was quiet. Nice. The kind of man who listened more than he talked. His family owned several car dealerships in central North Carolina. Old money. Calm money. The kind that didn't need to brag. His parents, David and Elaine Carter, welcomed Lily with open arms. Sunday brunches. Dinners by the lake. Warm smiles. No games. When Mason proposed in April on a hiking trail, with a ring that flashed in the sunlight like it had its own heartbeat, my mother cried. But when I looked at her face at the engagement party, I saw something that made my stomach tighten. She wasn't just happy for Lily. She had made the wedding about herself. That was the moment. I know it now. The second my mother stopped seeing this as Lily's wedding and started seeing it as the wedding she never got, the life she thought had been stolen from her, the proof that she had not been forgotten by the world. By August, she had built a wedding binder so thick it looked like a legal case file. Over Labor Day weekend, she showed it to me with shining eyes and a voice full of pride. The venue? A restored barn outside Chapel Hill. The flowers? Huge, soft, expensive. A live band. A dress from Durham. Photographer. Videographer. Fancy food for 200 guests. Custom invitations. Fancy napkins. Calligraphy. Hair. Makeup. Hotels. Transportation. The total sat there on the page like it wanted to choke me. $93,000. I stared at the number. Where is that money coming from? I asked. My father had quietly told me he and Mom had saved $15,000. That left $78,000 hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Nobody answered me. My mother just smiled and turned the page like the money part would magically solve itself if she stayed excited enough. Then the hints started. At the Labor Day cookout, my mother said, "ICU nurses make very good money, don't they?" Later she said, "Families help each other." Then, while I was washing dishes, she leaned against the counter and said, "You've always been smart with money, Quinn. No husband. No kids. No debt. That gives you flexibility." I said nothing. I kept scrubbing the dish. When I passed my father on the way out, he patted my arm and said, "Your mother's excited." That careful, flat voice told me everything. He knew. I drove back to Raleigh trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I already knew what was coming. I just wasn't ready to say it out loud. At Thanksgiving, the truth finally stepped into the room. Lily was showing wedding photos on her laptop while everyone ate pie. The barn looked beautiful. Warm lights. Stone fireplace. Open field. I said it was lovely, because it was. Then later, while I was rinsing the gravy boat, Lily came into the kitchen and crossed her arms. "I need to tell you something," she said. I kept rinsing. Mason's parents offered to pay for the whole wedding. I turned off the faucet. And Mom said no. I looked at her. "What does that mean for me?" She didn't even blink. "You make good money, Quinn. And you don't have a husband or kids to spend it on. It's just math. Just math." Like my whole life was a blank space waiting for someone else to fill it. Like all the choices I had made, all the things I had given up, were not real. Like my life had less value because I had spent it helping people instead of building something shiny enough for them to respect. I set down the dish towel. Picked up my keys. Walked out. Lily texted me that night. "Don't be dramatic." I didn't answer. Then came December. The ICU was a war zone. Flu season. RSV. Short staff. Too many alarms. Too many families crying in hallways. I worked Christmas Eve day. I lost one patient before sunrise. By the time I got off, I felt hollowed out. Still, I went shopping for everyone. A cashmere scarf for Mom. Sage green, her favorite. A DeWalt ratchet set for Dad. A pearl necklace for Lily with a note that said, "For the bride." Oatmeal raisin cookies for Grandma Evelyn, baked from scratch in a tin I painted myself. Then I loaded my car. A 22-pound turkey I had brined overnight. Green bean casserole. Homemade cranberry sauce. 2 gallons of sweet tea. I drove 45 minutes to Sanford in the dark, carrying food and gifts into a house full of family. I did not know I was walking into an ambush. Christmas Day felt wrong from the moment I stepped inside. The house was packed. Loud. Hot. Glittering with decorations. Garland on the stairs. Wreaths on every door. A huge tree in the corner. Folding tables stretched through the living room and down the hall. 30 relatives squeezed into a house made for maybe 12. I did what I always did. Set the turkey down. Heated the casserole. Poured tea. Made sure Grandma Evelyn had a good chair and a clear path to the bathroom. Smiled. Helped. Fixed. But there was a strange heaviness in the room. My mother kept looking at the clock. My father kept giving her small little nods across the table. Lily was dressed too nicely. Hair curled. Nails fresh. She kept twisting her ring. Mason looked confused. Nervous. He barely touched his food. Then the plates were mostly empty. The pie was still uncut. My mother stood up. She tapped her fork against her good wine glass. Clink. 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 The whole room went quiet. Before dessert, she said, smiling that hard, fake smile, "There's a family matter we need to discuss." Then she looked right at me. As everyone knows, Lily and Mason are getting married in June. Robert and I have been planning something beautiful. We saved $15,000, but we need the family to come together. She paused. The total cost is $93,000. We're asking Quinn to help cover the rest. 30 faces turned toward me. I could hear the Christmas lights buzzing. "You're asking me," I said slowly, "to pay $78,000 for Lily's wedding?" "I'm not asking," my mother said, louder now. "This is family. This is what family does." Then she gave the ultimatum. "Pay for your sister's wedding," she said clearly, "or consider yourself cut off forever." Everything inside me went cold. I looked at my father. He stood just enough to press both hands to the table and make his voice carry. "Your mother and I discussed this," he said. "Nobody here disagrees. This is your responsibility. Nobody here disagrees." That one sentence hurt almost as much as my mother's threat. I looked around the room. Aunt Carol stared down. Uncle Frank studied his fork. My cousin Ryan suddenly found the Christmas tree very interesting. Nobody spoke. Nobody defended me. Grandma Evelyn gripped the arm of her chair so tightly her knuckles turned white, but even she said nothing. I stood up slowly. I folded my napkin. Set it beside my plate. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not explain. I just said one word. No. Quiet. Firm. Final. Then I picked up my purse, grabbed my coat, and walked to the door while 30 pairs of eyes followed me. The cold air slapped my face when I stepped outside. I got into my car, but my hands were shaking so badly I could not get the key into the ignition at first. The turkey was still on the table. My gifts were still under the tree. I had brought food, love, effort, and loyalty into that house. I left with only my coat and the word no beating inside my chest like a second heart. I cried the whole drive back to Raleigh. And before I even got home, the phone calls started. By the time I parked outside my apartment, I had 14 missed calls. Mom. Dad. Lily. Aunt Carol. Unknown numbers. The next day, more. Then more. Then more. I started writing them down in a spiral notebook the same way I charted patients in the ICU. By New Year's Day, I had logged 122 calls in a single day. The voicemails were worse. My mother started with anger. You embarrassed this family. Then guilt. I raised you better than this. Then the threat again. This is your last chance. My father's messages were short. Call your mother. She isn't eating. This isn't going away. Lily mostly cried. Sometimes she said nothing at all. Just breathing. Then click. I sat in my apartment one night eating cereal straight from the box when I got a text from someone I didn't expect. Elaine Carter. Mason's mother. Quinn, I heard there's been some difficulty. Could we meet for coffee? Just us. Something in my gut told me to go. We met at a cafe in Cary. She already had 2 lattes waiting. She looked uncomfortable, but not cruel. Not proud. Just sad. Quinn, she said softly, I need to show you something. She turned her phone toward me. It was an email chain. Her message to my mother offered to pay for the entire wedding as a gift to Lily and Mason. My mother's reply came 6 days later. Thank you for the generous offer, but the Owens family handles our own celebrations. Quinn will be helping us with the costs. No need for outside involvement. I read it once. Then again. Then again. My mother had promised my money to someone else 6 weeks before Christmas. Before she ever said a word to me. Before she humiliated me at that table. She had already decided. Already announced it. Already made me part of her plan without my permission. I sat in my car after coffee, staring at the screenshot with my phone in my lap. That was the moment something inside me became clear. This had never been about helping Lily. It had never even been about money. It was about control. If Mason's parents paid, they got a voice. If I paid, my mother stayed queen of the whole thing. She got the venue, the flowers, the guest list, the story. She got to turn my work, my money, my life into proof that she mattered. I saved the screenshot. Emailed it to myself. Backed it up. The calls kept coming. But now I had the truth. Then one Tuesday morning in January, my phone rang, and I saw the number for Grandma Evelyn's assisted living home. I picked up right away. Don't hang up, she said. I wasn't going to. I've been practicing this for 3 weeks, she said, her voice thin but sharp. I sat there at Christmas and watched your mother humiliate you, and I said nothing. I was afraid of her. I've been afraid of her for 30 years. And I am ashamed of that. I pressed the blanket tighter around my shoulders. Then she said the words I didn't know I needed. You did the right thing, Quinn. You hear me? The right thing. Your mother is afraid of losing control. Don't let her make you small so she can feel big. I broke. Not quiet tears. Not a little sniffle. I cried so hard I could barely breathe. Grandma Evelyn stayed on the line and let me cry. She didn't rush me. Didn't tell me not to. When I finally got calm again, she said, when this is over, come visit me. I will. Bring cookies. What kind? The oatmeal ones, she said. And don't be cheap with the raisins. I laughed through my tears. By the second week of January, the calls had slowed a little. Still too many. But less wild. More tired. Like a siege running out of fire. That's when I made 3 decisions. First, I would not pay for the wedding. Not under pressure. Not out of guilt. Not ever. Second, I was not ready to lose my family forever. Third, if there was going to be one more conversation, it would happen in the open. No more traps. No more private pressure. So I texted Aunt Carol. If the family wants a real conversation, not another ambush, I'll come. She replied fast. I'll make it happen. A week later, she booked the fellowship hall at Sanford Community Baptist Church. Neutral ground. Folding chairs. bad coffee, fluorescent lights. 30 relatives. Same adults who had been there at Christmas. I walked in last, still wearing my navy scrubs after a 12-hour shift. I did that on purpose. I wanted them to see exactly who I was. Exactly where I had come from. Exactly what kind of work they were so ready to spend. My mother sat stiff and proud. My father sat half behind her, like always. Lily's eyes were red. Grandma Evelyn waited near the door in her wheelchair, watching everything. Aunt Carol tried to begin gently. My mother cut her off. There's nothing to discuss. All Quinn has to do is say yes. I said nothing. Then my mother stood up and gave her speech. She talked about her courthouse wedding. Her navy dress. No flowers. No photographer. No first dance. Her voice cracked in all the right places. Some people even looked moved. Then she pointed at me. Quinn has the money. No husband. No children. She is choosing to let her sister suffer. That is selfish. Selfish. The room went still. I waited 5 full seconds before I spoke. Then I told them everything. I told them about the 72 pharmacy trips. The 9 years of taxes. The 3 in the morning emergency drives. The hospital paperwork. The holidays I organized. The meals I paid for. The Christmas dinner I had cooked for the very table where I was attacked. Then I told them my numbers. My salary. My take-home pay. My rent. My student loans. My car. My gas. My groceries. The extra care items I bought for Grandma Evelyn. I told them what was left each month. Not much. I looked at Lily. You said it was just math. So let's do the math. She dropped her eyes. Then I reached into my scrub pocket and pulled out the folded printout. The room changed before I even opened it. Mom, I said, in late October, Mason's parents offered to pay for the entire wedding. Lily's head snapped up. What? I unfolded the paper slowly. This is the email chain. Then I read it aloud. Elaine's kind offer. My mother's cold reply. And the line that sliced the room in half. Quinn will be helping us with the costs. No maybe. No asking. No warning. Just a decision made about my life without me. Whispers broke out around the circle. Aunt Carol covered her mouth. My father looked like all the air had left his body. My mother shot to her feet, shaking with rage. That is private family business. I stayed seated. You made it family business, I said quietly, when you demanded $78,000 from me in front of 30 people on Christmas Day. Then I looked at my father. Is that still your position, Dad? Nobody here disagrees? He stared at the floor for a long moment. Then, in a voice so low the whole room leaned in to hear it, he said, I knew about the email. I told her to accept the offer. I should have said something. I was afraid of your mother. My sister stood up so fast her chair screeched across the floor. They offered to pay, she asked Mom, tears running down her face. And you said no? We are not charity, my mother snapped. They were going to be my family, Lily cried. For the first time in her life, my sister and mother were standing on opposite sides of the truth. I finally stood. Mom, I said, I love you. I love this family. I have spent 10 years proving that. But I will not be punished for saying no. I will not be harassed with 122 calls in a day because I refused to pay for a wedding that never needed to cost $93,000. I slipped the paper back into my pocket. The answer was always no. It was no at Christmas. It was no during the calls. It was no when I read this email. You just didn't want to hear it. Then I turned to Grandma Evelyn near the door. I knelt beside her chair and kissed her forehead. I'll bring cookies on Sunday. Don't skimp on the raisins, she said. I laughed for the first time in a month. Outside, Aunt Carol caught me by the car and cried as she apologized for saying nothing at Christmas. I told her making this meeting happen mattered. And it did. A week later, Lily called me. Her voice sounded different. Softer. Older. She and Mason had talked to his parents. The offer still stood. Then she said, "I'm sorry for what I said. About your life. About it being just math. I was wrong." I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I said, "I know." She asked if I would come to the wedding. "I'll think about it," I said. And I did. In February, my mother called. Not screaming. Not threatening. Small. "Your aunt says I need to apologize," she said. "So? I'm sorry. Do you understand why?" I asked. There was a long silence. Then, very quietly, she said, "I wanted Lily to have what I never had. I thought because you were strong, you should carry it." I looked at the scarf I had bought her still folded in my closet, never given. "I don't owe this family a wedding, Mom," I said. "I owe this family love. And I have been giving that for years." Then she cried. Real crying. Messy crying. The kind that sounded like something cracked open. "I never had a wedding, Quinn," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But that was never my debt to pay." By June, the wedding looked very different. No restored barn. No giant bill. No fake show. It was at the Carter Lake house on a soft Saturday afternoon. Wildflowers in mason jars. A simple guitar player. Lily in a beautiful consignment dress that fit her like it had been waiting for her. It was warm. Real. Full of laughter instead of pressure. And I went. Second row. Left side. Lavender dress from a sale rack. I did not plan the wedding. Did not carry casseroles. Did not arrange chairs. Did not pour tea. For the first time in years, I just showed up. That felt bigger than anybody there knew. At sunset, my mother came to stand beside me on the dock. "You look nice," she said. "Your hair's longer." Small words. Careful words. Not enough to heal everything. But maybe enough to start. Later, my father handed me a card. Inside he had written, in his neat careful hand. "I should have been braver. I'm trying." And Grandma Evelyn, from her wheelchair, caught the bouquet and raised it in the air like she had won a battle. The whole lake house laughed. Here's what I know now. The people who truly love you do not hand you ultimatums over Christmas dinner. They hand you a plate. They ask if you're tired. They see what you carry before it crushes you. My mother tried to make me pay the price for her pain. I said no. And that one word changed everything.